Hi everyone. So we're joined with Ellie Randall, who is a British bassist, and she's got this amazing YouTube show called Vocab Hub out, which is a super cool way to get some jazz chops down and learn more about that style of music, and also a bit about music education in there as well. So Ellie, over to you. What is the Vocab Hub? Why did you start it, and what could people expect to kind of get out of it?
It's essentially a weekly episode of a 1 or 2 bar, sometimes 3 bar phrase of jazz bass vocabulary. It's usually walking bass vocabulary, and I started it because I've been looking at walking bass for about 2 years now. And initially I thought when you improvise, you have to just completely make up note after note on the spot what you're playing. But the more I've looked into it, it's more kind of piecing together bits of phrasing that other people have used in the past. Like all bassists and all jazz musicians do that. It's not like copying. It's kind of like a musical collage. Like you take things from different places, and the creativity is in how you reconstruct that in a song. So the Vocab Hub series is taking musical phrases from other bassists. So we've got Paul Chambers, Ray Brown, Ron Carter, a couple of others, and a weekly snippet of something they've played in a previous jazz standard, and then I talk you through how to play it with a little bit of music theory, but not a huge deep dive on it. It's kind of digestible. So this is the third, this is the seventh, this is a chromatic note. And then you'll have like a 2 bar phrase that you can take and practice in all the different 12 keys, and then insert it somewhere else in your playing when you're doing other jazz songs.
And what do you think the link is between using Vocab Hub to digest new musical information and then put that into our playing? Is it kind of we go on there to learn the information and then it's up to the user to go away and kind of put that into their own playing, or do you kind of guide anyone onto what to play as an example?
All of the episodes up until episode 10 have been a new piece of vocab, and I've advised anyone that's watching to practice it in 12 different keys. So it'll be like maybe a major 2-5-1, and I'll give it to you in one key. And then if you want to use that in your playing in a jazz standard, chances are it's not going to be in the key that I've given it you. You're going to have to go away and learn it in different keys. And that's part of the learning process. Like I do the exact same thing with the lines that I've got. So yeah, that's kind of, I would say, the viewer's responsibility to learn it the way I've presented it, and then digest it, learn it in the different keys, and then apply it to a jazz standard. And then along the way, I've got a few episodes where I do an example jazz standard where I show you how the phrases can be used, but kind of suggest don't just copy what I've done. Like take the ones you like the most, put them into songs that you prefer. But it's kind of just serve as an example as like to what you can do with vocab.
And when playing jazz lines, where do you find the link between improvisation and learning vocabulary that's already established?
I think if you are on the spot improvising, it's no one just plays an assortment of random notes continuously. There'll be bits that are just fresh from your mind. You're making it up as you go along. But all jazz musicians will take sections of other, like it's kind of like quotes, isn't it? Like when you're speaking, you don't just freeform say words, you speak in phrases, and it's similar to that. It's creating something that is recognizable within the style that you're playing. And the skill is kind of in knowing when to place these things, because jazz is like most music is a conversation between the different musicians. So you're having to need to know when to leave space, when to use the lines that I've given, how to link them up, because some of them they're not all, if you just put them end to end, all the ones that I've taught, it's not going to sound good. You have to know when to use them, in what context, when not to use them, how to link them together. So yeah, I see it as kind of a musical collage.
What level of a bass playing would you have to be to start using the Vocab Hub and taking it on board?
I think technically, because it's walking bass, it's actually quite easy to get into. Most of it, not all of it, but most of it is, quarter notes. So you're playing 4 beats per bar at a relatively slow pace. It's not technically hugely challenging. If you want to make it more technically challenging, then you can, use more ghost notes, and occasionally I'll say, I put an articulation here or a skip there. So you can kind of start from the absolute basics of just quarter notes, or build it up to wherever you want it to be, really.
So it's more of a scalable skill set where you can basically keep adding more layers as you go to make it adaptable to your playing level. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is quite a niche thing. Like, not everyone wants to be a jazz bassist. I don't expect a huge range of people are going to find it to be what they want. But of the people that want to learn jazz bass, I think it could be useful for people that have literally just started and just want to learn some little phrases, see how it sounds to have, when you start, you don't know what sounds good and what doesn't. You need to kind of pick it up from other people. That's what musicians do, really. So I think you can start out at absolute basics. And if you were a professional jazz player, it's always fun to learn bits of vocab from other people. They're not ones that I've made up. They're ones that I've kind of learned from other bassists that I've enjoyed listening to.
And where do you see it going? So we're, I think, 11 episodes in, aren't we?
Yeah.
How far are you going to take it? Are you going to do it in series? Is it going to be just a continual thing until you go, do you know what, I'm all vocabbed out? Or
that's all the bass vocab. I don't know. I've been wondering about that myself. It depends kind of how much it takes off, I guess. I've got, I think, 19, 20 episodes recorded already. So it will be at least up until then. And then I think, if it takes off and people are really interested, I'll carry it on. If they're not, I might look at kind of shifting the focus maybe to solo vocab. Still over like jazz progressions, but yeah, I think like maybe, and the people that are watching it now, they might want something fresh. They might be like, right, that is enough walking bass for me. Like, give me something new. So I think I'll just see how people find it, and I'll carry on learning it myself. But depends, whether I'll continue like presenting it to other people.
How closely does this type of vocabulary tie into then using the phrases, but in conjunction with things like chord tones, arpeggios, triads, that sort of stuff?
Learning these bass vocab lines will also help you know the chord tones, because as you go through them, I'm saying this is the root, this is the third, this is the fifth, this is a chromatic tone, and you start to pick that up into your own playing and be able to come up with lines that you think, oh yeah, that other line, that had a root and then a chromatic note and then a second in it. You might then think, well, I could take a root chromatic note in a second of another chord and try it in a different way. So phrases can like serve as their own function, but they can also give like a jumping off point for coming up with your own stuff as well.
And how do we have to learn this and take this in? Is it something where we come and learn by ear and copy what you're doing on the screen? Or is there any sort of like downloads with it, like maybe it's tabbed out or on notation or anything?
At the moment, it's kind of taking in what I'm doing visually, so watching it on the screen, and as I'm doing it and playing it, I'm saying, play the C on such and such a fret. I think if you probably would need to know where the notes are on the bass for it to be useful to you, to be honest. So if you haven't quite got there, you can either use it to learn that, or you would need to have like a basic understanding. So for now, it's that. I was thinking if I get enough interest in it, then I'd put together a book of all the phrases that I've written out. It'd probably be sequential, so it'd be episode 1, episode 2, blah blah, and most likely be in music notation. But if there was a demand for tab, then I could look at doing that as well. But yeah, I have thought about putting like a PDF, downloadable PDF together of the chords and the progressions that I've used.
Cool. And how do you do your research, or how do you choose on the vocabulary that you're going to use? Is it just based on who you're listening to? Is it based on, I think it'd be good for an academic approach? How do you come up with the episode that week?
So yeah, it's mainly whatever I'm listening to or learning at the time. And if I just come across something that I think, I really like the sound of that, then I'll take it. Sometimes I'll change the key, just, for my own practice at transposing stuff.
Cool. Well, thanks very much for taking the time to talk to us and tell us all about it. What we'll do is we'll put some links in there so people know where to go. And please check it out, everyone, because it's a great way to get some jazz vocab down.